The sun blazed high over the open highway stretching across rural Tennessee. The dry wind lifted red dust into the air as a line of armored black SUVs cruised down the lonely road. Inside the lead vehicle, President Donald Trump was headed to a private event, a speech on economic revitalization in small towns. He sat in silence looking out the tinted window. Occasionally, he would glance at the folder in his lap charts, proposals, statistics, but his mind was somewhere else. Ahead, a small crowd had gathered off the side of the road. It wasn't a protest or rally, just a few locals in a roadside stand. As the convoy approached the group, Secret Service agents stiffened. One of them, seated beside the driver, tapped his earpiece. "We have civilians on the right shoulder. Maintain course." But then Trump's eyes caught something unusual. A young girl, maybe 10 or 11, stood beside a wooden crate, holding a cardboard sign. "Fresh eggs, $2 a dozen." She wore an oversized straw hat and dusty sneakers. Her hands were smudged with dirt, but her face carried something that made him pause. Hope. Not desperation, not pity. Hope. Without warning, Trump raised his hand. "Stop the convoy," he said flatly. "Sir," the agent asked, startled. "I said stop." The brakes squealed. The convoy ground to a halt, a trail of dust following behind. Agents scrambled, forming a protective circle. Trump stepped out, adjusting his suit jacket as the sun hit his face. The girl looked up, unsure of who the man walking toward her was. The small crowd went quiet, and then Trump asked her the simplest question of all. "Why are you selling eggs?" Sweetheart, her answer would change everything. The girl blinked at Trump, her voice soft but steady. "Because Mama can't walk today, sir. She had another dizzy spell, and we still needed to sell the eggs." Trump crouched down, suddenly more of a grandfather than a president. "What's your name?" "Laya," she said. "I'm 11. These eggs are from our hens, Hazel, Pepper, and Dot. I feed him myself." The crowd began to whisper, recognizing who he was. Phones came out, but Trump didn't seem to care. "Where do you live, Laya?" She pointed up a dirt path that disappeared behind a field of wilting sunflowers. "Just up that way. Our roof leaks, but we got good chickens." Trump studied her. "And your dad?" Laya hesitated. "He left when I was 6. Mama says he's finding himself, but I think he got lost." Something about her honesty struck him in the chest. The agents were growing restless, murmuring about the schedule, but Trump waved them off. "Let me buy every egg you have." Her eyes widened. "All of them but he. It's 10 dozen." He pulled out his wallet. "That's $20, right?" Leia shook her head and smiled. "It's $20, but we're not a charity, sir." He laughed. A rare, genuine laugh. "Then make it 100. I'm investing in your hens." She looked down, stunned. "Are you real?" "I ask myself that a lot." Trump muttered with a smile, but something inside him had shifted. He looked up the path toward her home. He needed to see where Leia came from. The agents hesitated when Trump began walking up the dirt path. "Sir, protocol." "Forget the protocol." Trump said, "This isn't a campaign stop. This is a people stop." Leia led the way, barefoot on gravel, like she was used to it. "Watch the roots," she warned him, glancing back. "I tripped on one yesterday and spilled half a dozen eggs." Mama wasn't mad, though. She says broken things still matter. Trump didn't reply. He just kept walking. The house came into view, a faded white cabin with a sagging porch windows patched with plastic. The roof looked like it hadn't seen shingles in years, but wind chimes dangled beside the door, dancing gently. It was a home worn but alive. "Mama," Leia called. "We got a visitor." The door opened slowly. A woman appeared, early 30s, thin, pale, holding herself steady with a cane. Her eyes widened when she saw who stood behind her daughter. "I? Mr. President." Trump raised a hand. "I'm not here to scare you. I just met your daughter. She's a remarkable young lady." Leia beamed. The mother's eyes filled. "We don't have much, sir, but if you want water, or we have some peach tea." Trump looked around. "Tea sounds good." As he stepped inside, an agent discreetly swept the room, but Trump was already seated on a rickety kitchen chair beside a chipped photo of Leia as a toddler. He didn't need statistics. He was living the story now. The mother, her name was Grace, poured peach tea into mismatched mugs. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained strong. I didn't expect to host the president today, she said with a hint of humor. Trump chuckled. I didn't expect to stop the motorcade for eggs. They both smiled. Grace sat across from him. I was a teacher before Leia was born. Then the seizure started. Doctors still don't know why. And you've been managing like this ever since? Trump asked. Grace nodded. I tried working again, but every time I collapsed, someone else had to pick up the pieces, so I started selling what we had. Chicken's eggs. Leia helps Trump looked at Leia, now nibbling a biscuit in the corner. That girl is stronger than half the men I've met in D.C. Grace's face softened. Once he didn't focus on approval ratings or policy numbers. He circled one photo with his pen, a grainy shot of Leia standing tall beside her egg stand. Underneath it, he wrote, "This is America," and signed it. DT news of the president's personal stop spread quickly across the region. Journalists began flocking to Grace's farm, curious about this tiny slice of America capturing national attention. For Grace and Leia, the sudden spotlight was overwhelming, but Sarah was prepared. We need to control the narrative, she said firmly. This isn't just about one family, it's about all rural communities fighting to survive. Leia, who once feared her story would be forgotten, now found herself speaking on local radio. Her simple words about helping Mama struck a chord with listeners who understood hardship firsthand. Trump watched from Washington. His advisors warned him about political risk, but he stayed firm. This isn't politics, he told them. It's people, and if we can't listen to people, what are we? Meanwhile, Grace and Leia began receiving letters, support from strangers, offers to volunteer, even donations to help with the farm. A local hardware store owner sent over new tools. A retired nurse offered free home visits. Grace realized something powerful was happening. Her family's struggle had become a symbol, proof that hope could grow even from the dust. One afternoon, as Grace and Leia worked to clear brush a car pulled up unexpectedly, off stepped a man in his late 40s with a kind smile. I'm Jack Turner, he said, extending a hand. I heard about you from the news. I'm a chicken farmer nearby. Jack offered to teach them better farming techniques, explaining how he'd turned his own struggling farm into a successful business. Grace was hesitant. Why help us? Jack shrugged. Because someone helped me when I was down, it's time to pay it forward. Over weeks, Jack visited regularly, bringing equipment, sharing advice, and most importantly, hope for Leia. Jack became a mentor, someone who saw her potential beyond selling eggs by the roadside. Grace watched this new friendship blossom and felt the weight on her shoulders lighten for the first time in years. One evening, as Trump prepared for another speech, his phone buzzed. A handwritten letter had arrived from Grace. She wrote, Dear Mr. President, thank you for stopping that day. You didn't just buy our eggs, you gave us a future. Mama is getting stronger, and Leia's dreams are growing. You reminded us that even when life feels broken, it can still matter. With gratitude, Grace and Leia. Trump smiled, reading it twice. Sometimes he thought a simple gesture speaks louder than any speech. He pinned the letter to his office board, a reminder that leadership was about listening. Not everyone welcomed the story. Opponents called it a publicity stunt. Social media exploded with skepticism. Why stop the convoy for eggs? What's the real agenda? Grace and Leia read the comments, feeling the sting of doubt. But Sarah reminded them, truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to be lived. Trump too faced criticism in Washington. His advisors urged him to move on, but he refused. This is real people, real lives. We're doing this. His determination surprised many, but those close to him saw a change. Something deeper than politics. With government grants and community support, Grace's farm began to transform. A new barn rose where the old coop stood. Solar panels gleamed on the roof. Water pumps hummed. Leia started a small egg delivery service, employing neighbors who'd lost jobs in the nearby town. Grace hired a nurse to help manage her health. One evening, they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky. Leia whispered, Mama, we did it. Grace smiled, tears in her eyes. No, honey, you did it. You never gave up. Their story became one of resilience, proving small acts can spark great change. One afternoon, Leia found a worn envelope buried under the porch steps. Inside was a letter from an anonymous donor pledging funds to expand their farm into an education center for rural children. Grace was speechless. Who would do this? She asked. Leia looked up hopeful. Maybe it's the world saying we matter. Trump received the letter too. He was touched. He called Sarah keep an eye on them. This could be the start of something bigger. The farm was no longer just a place to sell eggs. It was becoming a beacon of hope for the whole community. With the anonymous donation, Grace and Leia started planning the education center. They envisioned a place where children from nearby farms could learn about agriculture science and entrepreneurship. Sarah helped them write grant proposals connecting with local schools and nonprofits. One chilly morning, Leia stood before a small group of children teaching them how to care for chicks. The children's eyes sparkled with curiosity and wonder. Grace watched her heart swelling with pride. She realized this center was more than a building. It was a legacy. Word spread, and soon, volunteers arrived. Teachers, retired farmers, even a local chef offering cooking class.